It's one of my favorite stories of all time. It's about this preacher who goes to a Pentecostal college to preach in the morning. And when he gets there, there's a bunch of Pentecostal pastors that want to pray over the preacher. So they take him over into a side room and they begin to pray for him. Now the preacher says, you know what, I always appreciate getting prayer, but the problem with Pentecostal preachers is they'll put their hands on your head when they pray for you, messing your hair up awfully bad. They put their hands on your head and then they pray for a really long time. And the preacher said, I didn't mind that at all, that they were praying a long time, but the longer they prayed, the more they leaned on their hands and the body weight was getting greater and greater the longer that they prayed. And the preacher said, the only thing I could think of is how in the world do I get these Pentecostal preachers off of my head right now? He said it really upset him because one guy wasn't even praying for him. He was praying for some guy named Charlie Stolfus. He said, oh Lord, I pray for Charlie Stolfus. I pray, Lord, you'd intervene. He's leaving his wife, leaving his 3 kids. Oh God, you got to do something about it. Charlie Stolfus lived down the street about a mile down the way, right-hand side, silver trailer. Come on, Lord, you got to do. And the preacher's like, why are you telling God directions as to why Charlie Stolfus? God knows where Charlie Stolfus lives. And on he went. He wouldn't relent. He just kept going. Lord, you got to intervene. Charlie Stolfus, leaving his wife, leaving his kids, mile down the road, right-hand side, silver trailer. Well, finally, those Pentecostal preachers, they stopped praying over him. He was able to give his talk, and everything went fine with that. Now it was time for him to leave. So he got on to the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and he saw that there was a guy who was hitchhiking. Now, we all know that we shouldn't pick up hitchhikers, but we preachers, when we can get a captive audience, we go for it. You understand what I'm saying? So he picks up this hitchhiker, and they're driving down the road, and the preacher introduces himself, and he says, hey, what's your name? And the guy in the passenger seat says, my name is Charlie Stolfus. What are the odds of something like this? So the preacher doesn't tell Charlie anything. He just gets off the next exit and starts heading back for the town. And Charlie says, where are you taking me? And the preacher said, I'm taking you back to your home. And Charlie said, why are you taking me back to my home? And the preacher said, because you just left your wife and 3 kids. Can you imagine how big Charlie Stolfus' eyes are at this point? Preacher said he put his back against the door, like, what in the world do we have going on right now? Well, they head back to town. Now, can you imagine the surprise of Charlie Stolfus when the preacher drives past the Pentecostal college about a mile down the road, right-hand side, and pulls up to a silver trailer? Charlie Stolfus says, how in the world do you know where I live? Preacher said, God told me. Well, Charlie Stolfus gets out of the car as fast as he can, runs to the front door. Preacher's running up behind him. His wife comes to the door and says, you're back, you're back. And Charlie holds on to his wife and whispers something into her ear. And the longer he talks, the bigger her eyes get too. Preacher says, I want you two to sit down. I want you to listen. And they did. And the preacher said, I want to tell you, but God is for you and not against you. That God has so loved you that he sent his son to die on a cross for your sin, for your shame. So you have a second chance at life. He can restore your marriage. He can make your life greater than ever before. And right there that afternoon, Charlie and his wife gave their lives over to Jesus Christ. And you ready for the rest of the story? Charlie is now a preacher in California. Now that's a great story if you've ever had a great story. Now, some of you crack me up because you're like, oh, that's wonderful. And you kind of give me that polite applause, you know, like, that's just a story preachers tell. That's not true, is it? It's not true at all. No, it's a true story. True story. You say, oh, it's nice. It's nice. But I don't think prayer had anything to do. I think it's just a coincidence. That's all it was. Just a coincidency. That's all it was. You know what I found to be true? When I pray, coincidences happen. And when I don't pray, coincidences don't happen near as much as they do when I pray. And you ever think about this? What if that preacher hadn't prayed for Charlie Stolfus that day? And the pastor picks him up, doesn't have a clue who he was or what in the world he's doing. He wouldn't know where he lives a mile down the road on the silver trailer wouldn't know any of that. The whole trajectory of Charlie Stolfus' life would have been completely different if that person hadn't prayed. And I want you to think about this. What if you don't pray? How might the trajectory of your life, of my life, be completely different? What blessings are we forfeiting? What promises of God are we not claiming because we aren't coming to the throne of God and casting all of our cares upon Him?